This is the Russian dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy James. This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Motivation Mike, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and CastBox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with Motivation Mike! How are you, Mike?
I'm good. I'm living the dream. I'm very motivational, very motivated, ready to motivate the audience with this podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at motivation_Mike_WL for Wrestle League, which was where I trained, the training school where I was originally. So, yeah. Let's open it up.
Absolutely. And where can will Mike be motivational event-wise next?
Motivation Mike has got a few matches for Wrestle League coming up in Chicago. Specifically, a big tag team match scheduled for, I believe, February 13th. There's a big anniversary show for Wrestle League as well. Coming, I believe, March 14th, as well as some shows that we're about to announce at the Salt Shed. And hopefully some NWA Chicago appearances, some IPW appearances down the line, some Super Wrestlers appearances down the line, hopefully. So we will see. Definitely want to start branching out more again.
Yeah, it sounds like Motivation is busy.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, I've been a little bit more selective with my bookings. I definitely there was a period of time, where I was, of course, going every weekend, and I think part of it's my body, and part of it is just, like I said, me being more content with, and selective with where I have my bookings. So. It's been a lot of fun. I think, when I first started wrestling and, I was only 18, I had this mindset where I was like, I have to make it to the WWE. And it sort of sucked a lot of the fun out of wrestling. And that's no shade to anybody who's doing it and wants to go to WWE. But, I think after graduating college, getting a full-time job, having a lot of physical pain on the daily already at 26, just deciding that I love doing this and I'm just going to see where it takes me. If I don't get to WWE, I'm not going to consider that a failure anymore. I'm still, doing what I love, and that has, made it 100 times more fun. So it's a really interesting perspective now.
No, absolutely. And can we, do you have merchandise?
Right now, I have some merchandise in the works that's about to release. I have a sweatshirt and some T-shirts, probably some stickers and things like that coming out soon.
Okay, and we could, where would we be able to get these?
You could get them live at the shows, and then hopefully we'll set up a Pro Wrestling Tees store as well.
Perfect. And you don't have to go looking for it. The links to his social media and his merchandise will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube in CastBox. So, I mean, you mentioned it, you kind of started out at 18, kind of getting some anxiety about, making it to WWE. Did some of that have to do with you having a spinal cord injury, no?
I mean, it definitely, the spinal cord injury / condition, because honestly I was born with an autoimmune condition called ankylosing spondylitis. So that really targets my spine. And, throughout the last, years and, years of wrestling, it's gotten worse via injury and just, it's a degenerative disorder via time. And so I remember my first ever wrestling practice. I said to my coach, who, I've been trained by a bunch of different people. I've been very lucky to, have bbeen trained by Shogun, Chris Logan, by Quinn Whittick, by Warwick Stevens, by Luis Ramos. So tons of guys, lots of great seminars. But long story short, I remember telling Warwick at the time, who was the head trainer when I was 18, I have this thing with my back. And he was willing to work with me with it. I was definitely nervous about how I would fare. I think for everybody who gets in the ring for the first time, especially your first, few weeks in practice, a lot of people don't come back. It's really hard. Like, you bump and it hurts, and you hit the ropes and it hurts, and, you're doing basic footwork stuff and it looks so easy and you're getting it wrong. And so I think, it was definitely a combination of just, I was in so much pain after my first practices, and I was wondering, is this normal, or is this because I have this back, disease? But I think I'm sure it hurts more sometimes for me in that regard. But, I'm not special. People wrestle injured and with conditions as well. But I was certainly freaked out about what kind of damage was I doing? What kind of damage could I do? Is this going to prevent me from making it to WWE if I had to, do XYZ? I remember that show Breaking Ground on WWE Network, and they released a performance center trainee and they had some sort of back disorder, and that was why they were released, solely because they were like, we can't clear you because of that. And it kind of freaked me out. So I think that was definitely partially there. And I think I was just kind of like, I had that mindset at the time at 18, where, of course, before I had started wrestling, where I was like, this is it. There is no plan B. I was going to college as a backup plan in case wrestling didn't work out. And now, I have a great, job in marketing and, a part-time job with OVW, and, would love to, continue working in the wrestling business in, marketing or in creative or, anything really of that nature. But yeah, I think at that time, I just didn't realize that there were other avenues and that there was more to wrestling than just making a living off of in-ring performance. And I think once I understood that, I can love wrestling, I can do wrestling, and wherever it takes me, that's awesome. I've already had opportunities that I couldn't dream of when I first started. So, as far as I'm concerned, this, has all been a dream. But yeah, that I think the spinal cord played a big role, and it still does. And, my style of wrestling, for example, I can do the flips, I can do springboards and things like that. And I just prefer to have it's great that I'm pretty much a career heel, but I have a very old school kind of, grounded style instead.
Right. And I would say that you have a very pretty swanton as well.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I'm kind of teetering on. Thank you for that. I pull out the swanton every once in a while. I've been kind of doing it a little more lately. I've been kind of worried about the mobility in my neck. I don't know if those two things are correlated, but I definitely I think if I pull out the swanton every match, it will lose some of its luster. So I definitely maybe kind of like Seth Rollins when he pulls out the Phoenix Splash, like, he can do it, but it's special, and he usually misses.
Well, can you tell us about your relationship with Wrestle League?
Yeah, as I said, Wrestle League was where I first started training. When I was younger, probably 14, 15, and decided that I wanted to do this, you have to have your parents sign a waiver if you are that young. And my parents, rightfully so, were like, absolutely not. That's so dangerous.
Right.
So they didn't let me do it. The second I turned 18, I went with a friend. I signed my own waiver, and I just started training. I started training in September of 2018. September of 2017, excuse me. And I trained from then until about March, until about May. Then I debuted, and I had basically like a May, June, July, and August run, like a 4-month mini run as tag team champion with a wrestler who's now retired named Mitch Andrews. He had a similar gimmick to Motivation Mike. And, he's what inspired Motivation Mike. He was very, his gimmick, was very selfish and very, self-absorbed. And, I learned a lot from him. And, he was one of those people that, speaking of the spinal cord thing, was really like, throughout our matches, 2 or 3 months into the run, he was like, you can do this. And, he instilled that confidence in me and taught me a lot, working on the fly. And we won the Wrestle League, which at the time was JPW, tag team championships. And then I went off to college after losing them. And that was that. I had, kind of, whenever I was home in Chicago for winter break or spring break or something, if we had a show and the dates aligned, I would kind of do a one and off, random match. I would just, have a 5-minute match or whatever. And it was a filler. There was no story behind it. And I didn't really even have a real character. Like, I was just kind of Mitch's sidekick. But when I graduated college and decided I'm going to come back, I went back to Wrestle League. And it was Shogun who really whipped me back into shape. And, I came out of college and I was 180 pounds, and I was like all beer and like, fast food. And like, I was not in good shape. My cardio, which I'm still working on, was so bad at the time. And, everybody who I was training with at the time, it wasn't just Shogun, the guys that I started getting close with again, such as Kid Lat and then Shaq and, Quinn Whittick and Mr. 100 and, all these guys, and that's, leaving out some of my best friends in the business, Disco Ray and the Bro Bros and, JR Lindsay. And it's such a great community there. And I went from like 180 pounds of bloated mass to like 155 pounds of like, I was pretty, shredded and in pretty decent shape. And that's, when Motivation Mike came in, they really helped me, hone in that character. And that's my favorite part of wrestling. I'm a big, the stories and the characters are always, what drew me in, as well as, being a little kid and seeing the high spots. I was just it was magnetic. But I think for Wrestle League, it's just been a place where they've seen me grow. I've seen them grow. I've been there for the ups. I've been there for the downs. The highs have been really high. The lows have been really low. And right now, I think we are, again, going up. We just got a new practice ring. Like I said, we're about to announce some new shows in the future, actually at the Salt Shed, which will, I think, be a pretty crazy venue, partnering with some big companies like Jewel. And it's great to, have the responsibility at Wrestle League that I've been given, part of the creative team and part of a team of a handful of guys who can walk into practice and be trusted to help a rookie with their fundamentals, or to, help set up a show and have some, voice of authority. And it means the world. And, excuse me, that's my home territory. That's my home base, so no matter where I go, Wrestle League will always be my home. And, at the lowest of lows, when no one left, I would say it's because this community is so amazing, and the talent that's coming out of Wrestle League, all those names that I had just mentioned, and more. It's really special to see that that some people are taking notice. Disco Ray and Quinn Whittick and Joey Dalton are doing JCW, and I just did NWA, and Kid Lat's going to Japan. I mean, it's getting really crazy. So it's been really cool to see.
Look, you mentioned that you just made your NWA Chicago debut. What was that moment like, wrestling for those three synonymous letters with pro wrestling, National Wrestling Alliance? Yeah,
it was very surreal. Chicago, NWA Chicago is a great territory. It's a great company. Shout out to my opponent, Charlie Adams, and to Daisy Kill, who is partially in charge there as well. But it was great. The promo that I cut leading up to that event, if anybody wants to see what Motivation Mike is all about in a nutshell, I would just watch that promo. And I kind of use it as a sound, it being Motivation Mike, as a sounding board for what's happening in society right now, and making it, all about me and all about how other people can be better and more like me. And it's that evil motivational speaker side. And Charlie Adams is kind of like a John Cena babyface there. And so it was a great matchup. We're both from Highland Park, the suburb where this show was. So, it just made sense. Charlie reached out to me and asked if I had any interest in doing that match. And I said, of course, duh. So I, the week leading up to it, I get nervous before my matches, but the week leading up to it, I was really, really nervous. And I think it was partially, it was a culmination of a lot of hard work and a lot of people coming to the show who were really important to me. I mean, besides just my parents, my grandparents came to the show, and my aunts and uncles, and I had friends come to the show who reminded me, like, dude, you were wrestling on the trampoline when we were 10 years old, and like, now look at this. And, it just, it seemed, it was a nerve-wracking experience. I was really in my head, and I think the match went really well. It was short. It was 6-7 minutes, but I think it went really well. The crowd was invested. There was a nice run-in and a nice false finish. Of course, hit the swanton in the match, but the experience was great. Everybody there was so professional. I have nothing but great things to say, and hope when they said I'll be back soon that's the case. But yeah, it was, again, just, I feel like the only moment that comes, or the only word that comes to mind is surreal. Like, it just, knowing the lineage of NWA as a whole. Of course, this is the Chicago territory, and it's new, and we're trying to make waves right now and build up that Chicago territory, but it means a lot to have that opportunity, and it meant a lot to finally get to wrestle in front of a lot of people who have never seen me wrestle, or yeah, I don't know. It just, I still kind of am not sure what to say when when I talk about it, because it just, that's certainly the biggest promotion that I've wrestled for thus far. And, it's only up from there. So yeah, very exciting.
And I would definitely say you have unfinished business as well. In NWA. I mean, there was a lot of shenanigans in that match.
Yeah, there were, Charlie Adams, he's got a manager. I'm not going to lie. I let my emotions get the best of me. I grabbed a steel chair when he kicked out of my leg lariat. His manager was there to grab the chair out of my hands. The manager fell off, and, Daisy Kill came in, and he has unfinished business with Charlie Adams, and it got kind of crazy. And I would definitely like a rematch, or, just any sort of, match there again to prove Motivation Mike is there to stay. But yeah, you're right. There were a lot of shenanigans there, and definitely a reason to be back.
Maybe a reason to team with Daisy Kill as well.
Absolutely. That'd be an incredible opportunity. He's an amazing athlete, an amazing performer, and he's on, the national NWA. So, he's killing it right now.
Now, I do want to talk about, Motivation Mike as well. The character. I don't like using the word gimmick. Just out of, pure curiosity, why did you go with motivation and not motivational?
I'm not even there wasn't even really a debate in my head about whether or not I was going to go with motivation or motivational. I guess I'm a little stumped. Yeah, I mean, because motivational Mike works as well. That's why when someone says motivational Mike, I've even billed on flyers or on social media posts as motivational Mike, and I don't really mind at all. I think it's the same thing. But it was interesting because I was trying to come up with this gimmick with this character, and I didn't want to take Mitch Andrews, my old tag team partner. I didn't want to just character, and I also didn't want to start all over because I loved that character that I had developed as Mitch's sidekick. So I kind of decided, why don't I make that not a sidekick but a main guy, and I tried to come up with a name. I wasn't really sure, and my mom, as a joke, actually suggested Motivation Mike, and it was like so bad it was good. And so I think that's really what happened. It just, that's how the name was chosen. I just kind of slept on it for a few days and decided, like, yeah, that is kind of a diabolically annoying name. And so I went for it, and, we built out the character, and there were a lot of iterations, over the months where I was kind of trying to perfect the character. And, even over the last few years, my ring gear has changed. I used to wear boots and tights, and I decided, and, a lot of other people helped me decide that, this doesn't fit the character. And so I started wearing these tights that look like khakis, and like a nice belt, and, normal like dress shoe type of things, or just wrestling shoes with a kind of tight gym polo, like a gym teacher type of athletic polo that says Motivation Mike on it. So, there have been various iterations and various colors of the polo and what it says, and props that I've brought out, like, participation trophies that I swear are real trophies, and, things of that nature. But there's Motivation Mike is always, like I said, a sounding board for what's going on in life, what's going on in this city right now. How can I make fun of these fans? And it can be something as, I guess, fun as, me wearing a Bears polo when I am performing in up near Green Bay, or, making a political statement. after, some sort of event. So it really, however I can get heat, and I don't want it to be cheap necessarily. I mean, sure, the Packers and the Bears heat is cheap heat, but I am, trying to, like, for example, with my match with Charlie Adams in Highland Park, kind of talk about, growing up in Highland Park, air some of my grievances about what it was like to grow up in the North Shore, and, all sorts of things of that nature. There's always there's some way that you can make a story. And I learned that when they put Kid Lat and I together. That was my, first real feud as Motivation Mike, and that was his first real feud as Kid Lat. And we built a really nice story. We use everything to our advantage. We use social media. We use, our practices to film various promos and vignettes, and we had really creative matches with some creative stipulations. Brought in Coda Hernandez, who's also killing it right now out on the indie scene. So yeah, Motivation Mike, like I said earlier, if there was a 3 words to describe him, it would be evil motivational speaker, but it's much more. I call him the most humble man in the world, which is, of course, the most ironic thing to say. And he's just, I'm the guy in I'm part of a 3-man tag team in Wrestle League right now called No Privilege, which, again, it's these ways. It's not cheap heat. If you don't understand, then you don't understand it. But it's like we're not going out there and saying this city sucks. We're going out there and really making you think. And irony is huge with Motivation Mike. Just being self-absorbed, being a chicken, like a scaredy cat type of heel. And working it to perfection. So for a long time, Motivation Mike was on a losing streak, and the last, I would say, year, I've been on a pretty good tear. So we hope that can continue.
Definitely. And the khakis you wear, those are actual tights.
Yeah, so I was wrestling up in Michigan at GLWA for about a year. I'd love to, check it out again. I hear they're doing great things now, and they were back then too. But while I was there, Hayden, who was one of the promoters there, he had told me about these khakis that he wears sometimes to work, and he's like, they're kind of a hack. They're not really khakis. He's like, they're like kind of stretchy sweatpants a little bit. And so he told me where to get them. I went to their shop online and I ordered some pairs, and I was like, wait, these are like super stretchy and they look like normal khakis. And so I got a bunch of pairs of those. And so, I've done some matches outdoors where I get like a grass stain on it, or I will get blood on it or something. And, you just sub in the next pair. But I think merchandise, like we mentioned earlier, is the next level. It's something that I just haven't done. I should have done it a long time ago. And I just haven't. Yeah.
That's incredible, because I was like watching you wrestle, and I was like, how is he wrestling in khakis? This cannot be easy.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of people's, first question. I remember when Dean Ambrose was wrestling in jeans, and I imagine it was the same material. Happy Corbin wrestling in dress pants. But it's funny. I mean, a lot of times we'll be backstage and, an outside talent who isn't normally at Wrestle League, or I'll be at a company that I'm not, usually at, and someone will be like, are you wrestling? And yeah, I'm wrestling tonight. See, I got knee pads under here, and, yeah, it's I don't think I'd be able to do it if they were real khakis, but yeah, shout out to Hayden at GLWA, because I don't know if I would have found an option this perfect.
And, you mentioned, getting heat and, being the villain. I would say that, you are the second most hated man in Wrestle League, only second to J.R. Lindsay. uh, what does that kind of mean to you? Because, I mean, you can literally just come out at Wrestle League and the crowd will not let you talk. Like, they genuinely dislike you. Like, how's that feel to get that heat?
Well, it's so interesting because, especially to people who either don't know wrestling or, even to some fans, they imagine it might feel bad. But I internally am like, yes, I'm so happy. And, when I get backstage, the bigger the reaction from the crowd, the more excited I am. I'll be like, did you hear them chanting, "Shut the F up"? They wouldn't let me cut a promo. I don't even know if people could hear me. It was like a dirty Dom type heat there for a while. Anytime I put the mic up to my mouth, and I know I speak for Russell as well, that it means a lot. I value. I'm trying to come up with the right words to say it, but I love this industry, and I love, I think back to when I was a kid, and I think back to like how angry I would get at the heels when I was really little. And, even now when I'm older, like just the role that a heel plays in the wrestling that I watch every week on TV, and the, escape that is from the world, and what wrestling means to me. I just think to be a heel that can really elicit heat, there's not many of them that people actually, there's two types of heel heat. There's, we're booing you because you're a heel, and there's like, we actually don't like you. And that's what a real heel is. And there aren't many of those, is what I mean. And so I think for Russell and I to be able to say that we are, more of that old school, like truly, genuinely disliked type of heel. I mean, and I think Russell and I go about it at pretty opposite ways. Russell attacks it from every angle. Like, that guy's making music, he's making these cinematic promos, he's doing the most, which is amazing. Good for him. And I feel like Motivation Mike is more subtle. He's more like, this is, my story, and, again, trying to find the words to describe it. But, when I first started training and someone told me, you don't have to do all that many moves, I was kind of like, what? And throughout the years, some of my favorite matches have been matches where, like, I get backstage and I'm like, oh, I feel like we didn't really do anything, but we emphasized things the right way in the right places to tell a compelling story. And nobody's going to remember the moves that you did. Like, sometimes I'm like a wrestling encyclopedia. And sometimes I'm like, oh, The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. And it takes me a minute to remember actually who won that match, because it doesn't matter. I remember the moment. Everybody remembers them staring at each other. Everybody remembers the story leading up to it. Everybody remembers The Rock and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania. And I think that's kind of where I take pride in being, a heel. It's somebody who, like I said, I love wrestling for the athleticism, but I love it for the stories. And to be able to elicit that type of reaction, it feels great for me, and it feels great, I think, to get in the ring with other faces and watch what happens to them when they face someone like Motivation Mike, whether they win or whether they lose, and it makes the crowd hungrier to see them succeed.
Okay. Now, going from your character work to gimmick infringement. can you tell us about stealing Bugs Moran's toe tattoo?
Oh, yeah. So I did get the same tattoo on the bottom of my big toe that Bugs Moran has. He is another guy at Wrestle League who is a big architect right now of what's happening there, promoting, training. He's running classes on Mondays there. So, he's doing a great job with the rookies. But he has this tattoo, and I didn't know until a few months ago that he has this tattoo. But when I saw it, I just kind of made a mental note that was funny, particularly because my younger brother has been saying his whole life, oh, I'll never get a tattoo unless it's a smiley face on the bottom of my big toe. And so I went to Mexico with my family in December, and my brothers and I got this matching tattoo on the bottom of our big toe, kind of on a whim. And after I got it, I realized that Bugs and I were now matching tattoo brothers. So, the interesting thing is Bugs was telling me, oh my God, that tattoo hurt so badly. And for all three of us, my two brothers and I, it didn't hurt at all. And so Bugs kind of called it. He was like, that's not deep enough. And already it's fading away. So, don't get a tattoo on the bottom of your big toe. I will soon no longer be tattoo twins with Bugs Moran.
Okay.
It's going to fade away. I'm pretty sad.
I mean, you could always re-tattoo it, I suppose.
I could, but I feel so discouraged because it really only lasted like about a month. And so I'm like, I don't know. Maybe if I get someone I've got a couple of friends, shout out Muggsy James, who may be able to engrave that back into my toe a little bit deeper, but we'll see.
I feel we need Bugs Moran Motivation Mike toe war.
A toe war. Well, that's interesting because No Priv is taking on the Lethal Interjection crew at the next Wrestle League show. So it's going to be No Priv versus Bugs and Joey Max specifically. So we will technically get a toe war.
Okay. Well, you mentioned them. No Privilege. The tag team that you're managing right now. Trick Davis, Joseph Von, I believe it's Jaeger.
Yes.
Tell us about No Privilege.
Yeah, No Privilege is, again, kind of an extension of what Motivation Mike is. And I think No Priv was an interesting pairing. I think it was an idea at first where Bugs had put us together, and it was supposed to be, I think, way more political than it is now, way more politically driven, a lot more, revolving more around political commentary. And depending on where we were, whatever our politics were would just be to draw heat from the crowd, basically. And we cut a couple of promos doing the really political stuff, even did a couple of promos at live shows. And, I could hear it in the crowd. They weren't into it like they were into Trick Davis as an individual character, as Joseph Von Jaeger as an individual character, as Motivation Mike as an individual character. I think, times are so crazy right now politically, on no matter what you believe. I think people are, they didn't come to a wrestling show for politics. And, I heard feedback from fans that I had that I have trust with, and, from people backstage that I have trust with. And, we sneak it in here and there for heat, but it's really not about that. It's really about us three guys. We claim that we got to where we are through hard work and no privilege. And, looking at the three of us, that there's, that political, societal undertone there. But of course, no Priv is, no Priv is a lot of things. It's kind of like how Kurt Angle was serious, but also really funny. Like, we did a show during Pride Week that, I know that the crowd was eating it up in a way where, I heard people laughing and people are chanting funny, chants, and they're eating right out of the palm of our hands. And I think No Priv is great because all three of us have, something different that we bring to the table. I definitely am that mouthpiece. And, the other two are really great at promos too, but Trick is, on another level in the ring. I mean, he is so good in the ring. And, Joseph Von Jaeger looks the part. I mean, that guy is a little bit of everything. He's the total package. And, he's kind of like the, quote, the future piece of the faction. So it's a really dynamic group. I love that we've, been able to freebird when we were the tag team champions. You never really knew who was going to wrestle. Most of the time, of course, Trick and Tyler would take over. But I had a couple matches with Trick, a couple matches with Tyler. We did a handicap match against Shogun, which No Priv defeated Shogun. Just thought everybody should know. And and yeah, I think No Priv is a lot of fun. I was a little bit discouraged and a little bit skeptical at first because people, I think not because I was used to Motivation Mike Heat, but because the three of us didn't believe it, like you have to believe what your character is saying and living and believing to a certain extent. And if we are scared to cut our promos because what we're saying is uncomfortable even for us, it just, I could feel it, and I was discouraged. And I'm really glad that we, were able to work with Bugs to kind of turn it into this best of both worlds versions of really a vision that Trick had to be these like hardworking, snobby, kind of Ken Barbie dolls, but also, Bugs's idea to do this no privilege, kind of undertone.
Oh yeah. That being said, what's a pet peeve about Trick and Joseph that you just don't understand?
That I don't understand. The thing about it, I don't know, because I feel like we're really on the same page most of the time. And I sometimes, what's great about working with different people throughout my career in different tag teams is you learn so much about how different people work. And I think, because of that, people have certain quirks or do certain things that, at first you don't understand, and then they explain it, and then you really understand it. And I think, Trick and Tyler really, as they should, take this business really seriously. And, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this without, pulling the curtain back too much, but there's a demand to stay very focused when both calling and debriefing a match, which I really have grown to love. And that, goes to, play into that, different people have different styles. I've worked in tag teams where, people are just kind of messing around and call everything in the ring. And I've been in tag teams, where people are, laser focused, calling every single spot of every single match. And so, I don't really think there's anything that I don't understand, but there were new things where I was like, okay, this is a new, group of guys that I have to learn how we all work. And we all had to, learn how each other work and adapt to each other's in-ring styles, our promo styles, our each of our own individual characters, kind of mesh those into no priv so that we were a cohesive unit. Because, you know, speaking of pet peeves, like one of my biggest pet peeves in all of wrestling is just when two random dudes are thrown together as a tag team. Like sometimes it works, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like it worked with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and it works with people on the indies too. But a lot of times it just feels like kind of a makeshift team that, you know, goes against maybe a more established tag team in a promotion for maybe one match just to fill the card, and then that's it, because they don't have enough designated tag teams. And I'm definitely a believer that tag team wrestling can be the main event. Tag team wrestling, it's just a different style, and it shouldn't have to take a back seat to singles wrestling if done right. I mean, some of my favorite matches and feuds of all time are from the tag team division. So, you know, I just love tag team wrestling. I love all wrestling, but yeah, tag team wrestling is great. And because of, you know, the time that I've spent with Trick and with Tyler, I feel like there's not much they do that I don't understand. You know, it's all, I feel like we're all on the same page, and we've all built up so much, like such a great chemistry and a nice, you know, relationship. So definitely glad to be teaming with them. Excited to face the Lethal Interjection crew. And, you know, hopefully we get a tag title shot at the anniversary show. Just barely lost that steel cage match. It was a fatal 4-way steel cage match at the last Wrestle League show. Just barely just lost to Kid Lat. Of course, again, he's my kryptonite. But besides that, yeah.
You know, I don't know how to transition to this well, so I'm just gonna ask it bluntly. Can you tell us about Ronald McDonald versus the Burger King?
Oh, yes. Ronald McDonald versus Burger King was a trilogy of 3 matches that took place over the last 3 years at Wrestle League. In 2023, when Grimace kind of resurrected and was this big meme, I don't know if it was on TikTok or on Instagram or wherever it was, but Grimace was really big again, and he was going viral. And I know that the Burger King, I think, was going pretty viral too, as well, for the Whopper commercial, I think is what it was. And we were doing a Halloween show at Wrestle League. You know, I think Wrestle League has the best Halloween shows. I mean, I may be biased, but like, who doesn't want to go in and see, you know, Darth Vader versus, you know, Elmo in a steel cage? Like, you know, just, you know, it's so fun. And you know, 2 years ago we had this multiverse combat where, you know, Donovan Dijak from WWE was there, and you know, all sorts of characters from all under the sun. Anyways, the main event of this 2023 show was me as the Burger King and Disco Ray as Ronald McDonald. And it was more of a food fight than anything. You know, it was at the VR Red Line Ravens Room. It's like a VR bar in Chicago that I think has closed since, which is a shame because it was a very unique venue, a really cool venue. And, you know, like I said, the match was a food fight. We were, you know, slamming each other on chicken nuggets and tossing food out to the audience. And, you know, I sprinkled fries on the ground like it was like they were thumbtacks, and, you know, went to give Ronald a pedigree onto them and got back body dropped onto the fries. And, you know, Grimace comes out and does a run in, and so it's great. And we did that match for 3 years in a row. We, you know, had Ronald win the first one and Burger King win the second one. And then this third one was kind of a grand finale, a run-in with various food mascots. I think Raisin Cane was in there. Grimace was in there again. Wendy was in there. I think Jack in the Box was in there. The Hamburglar was in there. The Hamburglar was in the first one too. He suplexed everybody and grabbed his burgers and left. But it seriously was so much fun. I got choke slammed from about halfway up a ladder through a table to finish this match, and I'm still sitting here saying that those are some of the most fun matches I've ever been a part of. To be fair, for how fun and silly those matches are, they were hard to put together with all of the run-ins, and you have food scattered all over the ring, and we're putting food in certain bags and saying, your burgers are going to be here, and we'll put your fries under the ring, and we'll put the chicken nuggets behind this turnbuckle, and ask the ref for the milkshake, whatever it was that we were going to use. There were a ton of moving pieces, but I think it all went over well. It was so fun. That first year that we did it, I got slapped in the face so hard with a open face cheeseburger, like just the patty and the mustard and just like all this food all over my face, all stuck in my Burger King beard. It was a blast. So I think Disco and I are hanging up the Ronald and Burger King crown and clown suit, I guess, but we'll see if there's something new that we can take advantage of this year that's viral, that we can do the same again, or we can join our multi-universe combat as some sort of fun character. I think spoiler alert, Motivation Mike has wanted to come out on Halloween dressed up as nothing, just dressed up as Motivation Mike, and say anybody who dresses up on Halloween is pretending they're someone else, aka running away from their problems. And you should be able to look at yourself in the mirror every day and know that you're the best version of yourself, the most motivated version of yourself. And so Motivation Mike hates Halloween, especially after what has happened the last 3 years with Burger King and Ronald McDonald. So that's certainly an option that I think would fit the bill.
All right. Well, I mean, it seemed like it was one of the big rivalries in all of wrestling.
Yeah, definitely. Every October would come around and people would start wondering. The rumblings would happen, the promos would come out, and Ronald had some crazy promos every year, but this year he really went all out. He did like a whole music video in public as Ronald McDonald, and yeah, props to him.
What are your thoughts when you see that? Because it was a whole music video. It was a whole diss track. I get this message in the Wrestling group chat about there's a new post up that everybody should go check out. And that's a pretty common message in the group chat. Hey, go like my recent post or whatever, but my phone's exploding. Clearly this is a crazy video, or people are talking about it, and I click on it and I just see Disco dressed in this Ronald McDonald suit in public, and I see him like dancing on the McDonald's sign, and it took me a minute to process, and I was just like, oh my God. But and I mean, I sat there in disbelief for like the 3 minutes that the diss track is, just watching with my jaw hanging wide open, and it was so good. I immediately was like, I've never been more excited about a promo that someone else cut on me. Like, this is, and Disco and Kid Lad and Russell, and these are guys who are, Seneca Sunshine. I mean, they're putting a lot into their promos. They're editing and they're getting various camera angles and making it cinematic, and they're doing the most to make a story. And that's like what I said about Kid Lad earlier. Like,
we had two choices when we were put together. Nobody knows who Kid Lat is. Nobody knows who Motivation Mike is. We can go out there and have, a pre-show match, or we can take shots at each other in practice, post it online, do promos, do edited vignettes, and all of a sudden, everybody shows up early to the show just to see the pre-show. Our next match is on the main card, and our next match is further on the main card, and now Kid Lat and Motivation Mike is like a known Wrestle League rivalry that is just kind of like a timeless thing. You put them in the ring whenever, and we'll hate each other and it'll be great, So yeah, what I thought when, long story short, to get back to that, when I saw that video, I couldn't believe it. I knew he would go all out for a promo, but that was wild. And there was like not even I had some insults, some retorts for the Burger King promo that like I just put right back in my pocket. Like I was defeated right there.
Did we almost get a return disc track from Burger?
It was going to be less of a diss track and more of like a reading. There was going to be like a narration over an epic Burger King, video cutting, where I would be reading kind of like almost like it was a Bible or something. I don't know, but I had some concepts in my head, but I just, the event came up so much faster than I anticipated, but B, I was just like, I can't, unless I go out in public and do a diss track. But I don't know if he used AI or what. It was great, but yeah, it was awesome.
All right, now from the crazy to Mike's bizarre adventure. You're a pro wrestler in the pro wrestling world, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Weird, crazy things bound to happen.
A road story that is weird, crazy, and or bizarre.
So I think, probably the craziest road story for me that comes to mind is I was wrestling in Michigan at GLWA, and we used to do these awesome road trips where like me, J.R. Lindsay, Brittany K, Disco Ray, the Bro Bros, Bugs Moran, like we would pile into a car or two and we would go down to Michigan and we would make a day out of it. Like we would get lunch and we would wrestle for GLWA. They would do their pre-show called Vendetta. And then we would do their main show. So, we would wrestle sometimes 2 or 3 matches in one night. And I remember the match that day that I was doing was against Russ Jones. And Russ is awesome. He looks the part. He is a scary, big dude. But he's a teddy bear backstage, I love working with him and he's so knowledgeable. And I was wrestling him. We called our match. We did our match. Again, it was one of those matches where, hey, that's one of my favorite matches. And we didn't even really do all that much. And there was no point in the match at all where I, felt like anything went wrong. Like everything felt perfect. I get backstage, everything's great. I'm changing, everything's great. Maybe 30 minutes later, my head starts to hurt a little bit. I don't really think much of it. But over the next couple of hours, the headache gets considerably worse. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I didn't hit my head. I didn't get hit or anything. And, it's time to break the ring down. It's time to clean up the venue. We're sweeping. I'm, taking the apron, doing all this stuff. And I start feeling kind of dizzy. I start feeling kind of nauseous. I'm like, oh my God, like I feel like I have a concussion. You know, it feels the exact same as having it as to when I've previously had concussions. So I was like trying to figure out what happened. My theory, you know, is that at some point in the match, you know, it was probably like this choke slam spine buster combo thing. I mean, it was just so impactful. You know, my head never hit the ground. I never got hit in the head with like a strike or anything like that, but I definitely am a firm believer and, you know, have done various academic projects on concussions, including my thesis in college, that repeated impacts, whether or not your head actually gets hit, but the sudden inertia and the inertia and the sudden stop, that when your head snaps back, even if your head's not hitting the ground, every time that your head snaps back like that, your brain is hitting against your skull. And it was just the straw that broke the camel's back on some random everyday bump. My theory is that it concussed me on some random everyday bump. And your adrenaline is so, like, especially for me, I'm so nervous before the match and in the ring. You know, some people say, isn't it great when the music hits, your nerves just go away? And I'm like, that's awesome news for you, but I'm like actively in the ring, very nervous. And, you know, I still managed to enjoy it. But, you know, that's my theory of how this concussion happened, because even looking back on the match and, you know, watching the videos of it, there was nothing that happened. But so I'm cleaning, I sit down and I tell the guys I'm traveling with, you know, I think I have a concussion. And so I'm sitting, I'm not doing any more of the cleanup or anything. I get my stuff, I get back into the car, and I think the people in my car that night, it was me and the Bros. And I think Braylon and Brittany and Russell went in a different car, and J.R. Lindsay went in a different car. And so I'm leaving, I'm driving down the highway about 10 minutes in. My head is hurting so bad, I'm so dizzy. I pull over and I throw up. And I'm like, okay, 1,000,000% I have a concussion. If now I'm presenting all the symptoms, including throwing up. So I turn to the Bros and I, you know, say, boys, the kicker in this story is, you know, we're 4 hours away in Michigan, and I can't drive because I have such a bad concussion, and neither of the Bros drive. Like, neither of the Bros drive cars. Like, neither even have driver's license. It's like they have IDs, but they don't have a drive, you know. And so I said, how comfortable do you feel driving from here all the way back to Chicago? You know, looking back on this, I totally should have mapped to the nearest hotel, and, you know, even if it was a 1 mile drive and I had to drive there super slowly so I, you know, was okay, that's what we should have done. But the bigger bro was the bigger man, and he said I got it. I feel comfortable driving. And then, you know, he threw in I do it all the time. Oh, really? That actually doesn't make me feel any better but so, you know, we, you know, Chad bro, drove my car all the way home flawlessly. I was just in the passenger seat, you know, holding on for dear life. And, you know, Tad bro was in the back, just vibing. I think he had full faith in his brother to get us home. But I mean, there are tons of crazy, you know, bizarre kind of random things that happen, but certainly, you know, me having one of my favorite matches and then realizing maybe an hour or two later that I might be concussed, throwing up, and then having Chad Bro, who doesn't drive us home from Michigan, was probably one of the top unexpected moments of road trip motivation Mike lore.
Well, I guess he did do it all the time.
Yeah, he might have cooked. He might have been onto something.
Well, definitely a bizarre adventure to say the least. But let's talk about you as a writer. You've been writing since you've been 16, and you even had a stint where you worked for USA, no?
Yeah, so
USA Network, I should say.
yes, yeah. So even earlier than 16, really, I was writing for this app called Wrestling Amino in middle school, like probably 13. And it was just it was basically like a Reddit forum, but the app was only dedicated to wrestling. And you could write countdown articles or, fantasy book things or, whatever it is. And you could add pictures to your articles and everybody could follow you and like your posts and whatever. So that's how I really got started. And I would write these articles. And, obviously at 13 years old, I wasn't the most knowledgeable wrestling fan. But I started learning, and you can it's interesting. You can see it in the transition of topics from, simple countdown lists to articles that I've written for like pro wrestling stories, in my mid 20s about the similarities between ancient gladiatorial combat and, ancient wrestling promotion. Or even modern wrestling promotion for that matter. But after wrestling Amino for a little while, I decided to start applying for all those, dirt sheets, for lack of a better word, that I was reading as a teen for wrestling rumors. I was going to a show in Chicago. I was reading the rumors for, what's the rumored match card, and, trying to get insight into, who is Heat backstage and what's the creative room, just, I was so into it. There was a period of time, in middle school and like even early high school where like I just lived and breathed wrestling. And so, eventually I think when I was 15 or 16 was when I got hired by my first dirt sheet. And from there wrote for various dirt sheets, eventually had articles picked up by places like Bleacher Report, some, significant publications. And I guess if we're talking dirt sheets, some of the more significant wrestling news sites, like Wrestling INC and places like that. E-Wrestling News, Ringside News is garbage. Everybody knows that, but that's, was the first place where I started when I was like 13. And they stole a lot of authors' works basically, and refused to pay people. It was a whole thing, which I can, elaborate on another time. It was crazy. And I think people can tell because the guy who owns the site has like a semi-annual drunken Twitter thing where he posts like the most unprofessional, crazy rants on Twitter. But anyways, from there, I think when WWE was, it's been on USA Network for a while. Obviously now it's on Netflix, but Raw was home of the USA Network for the longest time. And USA Network was starting a new endeavor called USA Insider, which is basically on their website. You can get, extra content with the stars and with whatever it is by writers who know about it. And they basically created a job posting online that said, we are doing a WWE Insider page. We need someone who knows a lot about wrestling. We need someone who has journalistic experience. And it was kind of the right place at the right time. I was a senior in college. I'd been working at a news station for 2 years at that point, as a reporter and as a producer. So I had all this experience. I had this passion and this knowledge for wrestling. And so I applied, and, I was applying for jobs anyways, and I got it. It was crazy. So, remotely, I was working remotely. They sent me a laptop, and basically what I would do is every morning I would pitch stories to my editor, that would drive traffic or interest or new fans towards Monday Night Raw or towards other programming. And for example, Edge returned. So I write a career retrospective for Edge. SummerSlam is coming up. So I write, top, 10 SummerSlam stories of all time. Whatever it is that will, hype the event, promote the event, increase fan engagement. And then my favorite part of the job was the interviews. So, I would get on basically a 3-way phone call with me, a WWE talent relations person, and a WWE superstar. And I would do this. I would interview them, and I would talk to them, and I would write articles about where they are in their career based on this interview. So, I've interviewed some unbelievable names. I mean, I've interviewed LA Knight and, Raquel Rodriguez and, some really interesting names. Like they hooked me up with one of the main gear makers for WWE. Like he makes all the New Day's gear, Johnny Gargano, and, a lot of gear for the women, and, just a lot of really interesting, I like interviewing Kevin Owens and interviewing, Miles Bourne, and, it's just crazy. Like these are the people that I was saying earlier, like I lived and breathed wrestling, and, it's just crazy. And so the USA Network stint was a dream come true. There was a giant remote entertainment writer layoff. And they laid off basically everybody who wasn't a manager. And, that's just how the business goes. I mean, not the wrestling business. I mean, sure. Yeah. But any business, goes that way. And, so I got my job where I'm at now in marketing, but I really wanted to stay, obviously connected in wrestling. I still contribute here and there to various news sites, but it was really when I got connected to Dave Hero at OVW and Al Snow at OVW that I kind of proposed that, maybe I start writing weekly recaps for their OVW Rise show. It's so popular, and, or at least gaining popularity, and you can Google, what happened on Rise, and you won't find enough about it. And so I proposed that, I start writing these recaps. I started doing it every single week. I would watch Rise. I would write analysis. I don't know if you read the Bleacher Report, Raw and SmackDown, like grades where they grade each segment. Yeah. But that's basically what I took inspiration from. I did that, and, they were inviting me backstage to various OVW or GLCW shows. And, through that, I've also had some incredible experiences. Like there was a OVW show at like a baseball stadium in, I think maybe Schaumburg or something like that, like a Chicago suburb. And I sat there and I watched the show with Braun Strowman and Matt Cardona and Al Snow. Like that is I'm standing there in the elevator with these 3 guys as we're going down to the bottom floor from the locker room. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, how did I get in this elevator? And that's what I mean by like wrestling has brought me so many opportunities that I could only dream of when I started. Like whether it's like learning from incredible performers like Ron Simmons or, Jimmy Hart or, Wrestle League recently had Kalisto. I mean, there's opportunities to cross paths with so many, incredible talent, along the way, perform on, incredible stages, incredible venues, incredible promotions, to do match types that I never thought I would get to do. That was my second steel cage match. I did a match with Kid Lat. It was a street fight with one hand tied behind my back. I've done an unsanctioned, match. It was called a Primus match, where they like wrap the ropes in chain, and it's almost like a battle royal meets elimination chamber, but there's no chambers, and you eliminate someone via pinfall. So I don't know. I've done so many cool things. I've been a singles guy. I've been a tag team guy. I've been in factions. I've cut promos. I've, bladed, which is there's just a whole multitude of things that I've done that I was like, I never thought I would do any of this stuff. And not that I'm like proud of blading. I didn't even blade technically because I was 18 and I was scared. So my opponent bladed me. So I don't recommend that. And, as I've gotten older, I've been like, to each their own. If you want to blade, but I mean, not for me unless the moment is really there, the story, the crowd, everything. But yeah, it's amazing just what I've been able to, at the end of the day, I want to make people feel how I felt as a kid watching wrestling, how I feel now watching wrestling. Like it can take my mind off anything, is like how I feel now. Like, no, like I just feel like it's the ultimate escape. It's the ultimate. I love theater and I love sports, and I've never seen anything that combines the two. Like, I'm such a huge Chicago sports fan, but I also love movies and, entertainment and all this stuff. And it's amazing to see this. Like, I think when I was a kid and I saw this for my first time, just flipping through the channels and saw wrestling with my brother, and immediately was like hooked, like, because I didn't know that there was anything in the world that combined these two things in my life that I loved so much. So now I'm like, holy crap, like it's these two things that I love so much combined perfectly. It's like my love for both of them combined on steroids, like, no pun intended. And like, it's just, it's amazing. I hope that, for kids who are watching, they have that same type of moment where they're just like, I'm watching real life superheroes. And for an adult, I give them like the escape, or, whatever you like in wrestling. People love wrestling for a multitude of different reasons. So like, I hope that I can be the person to deliver that. Like, it's an honor. I take it seriously.
Oh yeah. Now, I mean, that's a great segue, making movies. To the colossal question, let's say they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
Ooh. The first 3 songs of my movie soundtrack. So one interesting thing about Motivation Mike is that I don't come out to a theme song. I come out to silence, and I have a mic, and I basically talk myself out to the ring. When I need a theme song, like if there's no microphone at the venue, or, my original theme song was In the Hall of the Mountain King. And that is like the classical, like dun 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 dun.
Yes.
That song, that song draws so much heat, and I think it could be mixed with just like the Motivation Mike attitude and mannerisms and promos that I'll cut on social media. But I think that's a great song to like convey so many different emotions and moods and vibes in the story. Like it could be any multitude of parts of my story. I think I'm a big rap music fan, so maybe Stick Talk by Future or 7:12 p.m. by Future. Those are two of my favorite Future songs. He's one of my favorite artists, and those are two of the songs that I'll listen to before I wrestle to get me hyped up, to get me in the zone. So I think that makes sense too. And then I think Can You Hear Me Knocking by the Stones. It's a classic. Another one that just goes great in like a lot of different compilations. Like I could be training, I could be wrestling, I could be, it could be about like the hardships of life, the challenges, the ankylosing spondylitis, whatever it is. And, I think those three songs are just like such different moods, like classic, and then you got rock and roll, and then you got rap. And all three of them kind of can be used for like a multitude of things, and, kind of are so random. Like I said, like I would love to, for my soundtrack to be totally eccentric and totally all over the place. Like and that's sort of who I am. Like I just kind of, I like what I like, and I just I try and kind of dig out like a little metaphorical, figurative corner of the world that I exist in, and fill it with things that make me happy. And so yeah, I think the Motivation Mike movie, those three songs would be the first three on the soundtrack. I don't know what order.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a solid 3 picks to say the least.
Thank you.
Now that we have the soundtrack down, everybody knows you get the soundtrack first, then you write the script, and then you go to casting. Who plays you? And you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
I mean, what's our budget here? Do we have an unlimited budget for this?
We have
an
unlimited budget. No bounds. No. All the biggest producers, all the biggest directors, is making this movie. Nothing is off the limits.
We got Leonardo DiCaprio playing Motivation Mike.
Okay. Getting Leo. Now that we have you casted, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you and your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
That's another good one. We'll say Shogun, Chris Logan, and he'll be kind of like a narrator type of figure. So we'll go with the golden voice of Morgan Freeman.
Of course.
Let's see. I would go probably with Kid Lat, of course. And I'm trying to think of a good actor to play Kid Lat. Maybe like Dave Franco plays Kid Lat. I'm not really sure. I'll have to think on that one. Yeah. And then who else? Really big to my career. I mean, it's hard to pick only one person. But it could be my friend Aiden, who he's not in the wrestling business, but he's kind of like the Kevin Owens to my Sami Zayn. We grew up watching wrestling together our whole lives, wrestling each other, in my backyard for, make-believe companies, and, just kind of always dreamed of doing this together. And he's the first person I go to when I am like, I need an idea or an opinion or have a cool match. I, send it to him, and, he's always a big supporter and soundboard, and just symbolic of the friends who, were there when, I was just training, and not people who, are just show up for the ride. So, for Aiden, I think, it's interesting. I used to maybe say that someone like Seth Rogen would play Aiden, but he's kind of had a character arc. He's a little more serious now. So, you know, maybe Adam Sandler, now that he's got both sides, he's got the comedic aspect, but he's also he can play that serious role now too.
Okay. But it's definitely sounding like a great movie. A blockbuster to say the least. And you can pre-order the tickets now. Alright. Now on to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I'm generally not a fan of pineapple on pizza. I'm not like a giant hater, you know, because when I tried it, I was like, I see the appeal, you know. I wouldn't do it myself, but I'm not going to get mad at people who do it. You know, there are some people in Wrestle League, like J.R. Lindsay, for example. If you have any opinion at all, he will have a different opinion than you just because it's a different opinion. And that has taught me that everybody has opinions. And as long as it's not about, you know, something really serious like the, you know, morality, you know, then yeah, enjoy your pineapple on pizza. But I won't eat it.
So, J.R. Lindsay, heel in real life.
Huge heel in real life. It's not just, I mean, they say that some of the best characters are that person turned up by 10. And J.R. Lindsay is Russell turned up by 10 because in real life, he does rap. In real life, he, you know, is dating Brittany K. In real life, he is a troll online. I mean, if you are friends with Russell on Facebook, you know, he'll even send in this smaller group chat with some of the closer wrestling, you know, smaller circle, which troll post is better. And it'll be like two of the most insane, like obvious troll posts that I've ever seen. And he'll post them and people will get so angry. And I'll just be like, how do you not realize he's trolling? Like, he'll say some crazy stuff like, you know, babies are ugly, you know, or like whatever he's saying, like just that is generally like the population doesn't think that. And he'll just go with it. He'll just go with it. Like he has some crazy stuff about, he posted a crazy thing the other day about, females, you know, you think your period is so bad. And, you know, of course, everybody got so angry at him. And, you know, he's just a heel. He's just a real heel. Like I couldn't believe he posted that one. I was like, that is crazy. That's a crazy one. But, you know, that's him in real life. There are some guys who really live the gimmick in real life. The Bros live that gimmick in real life. To a certain extent, Disco Ray lives that gimmick in real life. He's an incredible dancer, like an educated dancer. You know, there are guys who live the gimmick. I would like to say even Motivation Mike, for certain, you know, aspects of his character, lives the gimmick. Like I really do go to work at like a 9-to-5 job every day and like, you know, really am all of perseverance and you know, like so obviously most of what Motivation Mike says is completely in character and not what Ethan myself thinks, but you know, there is certainly truth to the, you know, saying that the best characters are just you turned up by 10.
Oh yeah. All right. What's your spirit Pokemon?
My spirit Pokemon. So I used to be really Pokemon. I remember, I mean, I was little, I had like a binder and I had all these cards in it, and me and my cousin and my brother, we would like do Pokemon. Is it a battle?
No, it's just...
Is that what it is?
Yes, the Pokemon battles, yes.
Yeah, and we would like battle each other and like put cards on the floor and like, yeah, so I don't know. I haven't been keeping up. I'm trying to think because I may say a Pokemon that's like a bad Pokemon or has like a crazy story that isn't reflective of my story. But why am I blanking out on his name? It's like a dragon of some sort.
Charizard?
Maybe Charizard, but he's more like fierce. I'm at my laptop. I'm gonna like look it up. Dragon Pokemon. All right, I'm looking at a bunch of dragons here.
No, it's Charizard, Charmander, Dragonite. Yeah,
Dragonite. Yeah, Dragonite. I'm reading about him now. He seems chill.
Yeah, Dragonite definitely chiller than Charizard for sure. So we're going with Dragonite.
Yeah, I'll go with Dragonite. Oh yeah, he's 7'3". Yeah, I'm going with Dragonite. 7'3". Yeah, I don't know if that's big or tall in Pokemon Land, but imagine if Motivation Mike was 7'3". I feel like I could be a good giant.
Yeah.
If I was taller. I'm not at the size I am now. I couldn't be a good giant.
That's a pretty good size for a Pokemon. There's obviously a lot smaller, but there's a lot taller as well. But that's going way too deep into Pokemon. Alright, weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully. Actually, no. We love the late great Tracy Smothers. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
THUG. I don't think so.
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail, because a Doug can't spell.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show, trying to keep the memory alive.
Yeah, now I'm looking into that. I should know about this. Some good Smoky Mountain wrestling lore.
Oh yeah. I believe that's full-blooded Italian, so that's ECW. Even though he was Irish. Now the weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Rock.
Yes, I would consider it, and here's why. I would consider wrestling any inanimate object. And it's partially because of that saying, blah, 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 oh, AJ Styles can have a good match with a broom. And I believe that's true because I was at a practice with Quinn Whittick, and I feel like every time Quinn opens his mouth, he drops like one of the smartest like nuggets I've ever heard. And he basically was like, if you are wrestling an invisible man in the ring, I should be able to tell what move you're doing or what move is being done to you. So like he cleared the ring and he starts doing bumps, and I'm like, oh, like he just got clotheslined, he just ducked, oh, he just took a choke slam, and I'm like, his fundamentals are so sound that I'm like, I can tell by his footwork, by the way that he's placing his hands, by, whatever, that this is the move that he's going for. And so, I haven't watched start to finish any of those matches where like Kenny Omega wrestles like a mannequin, or like, I know that those matches are out there on the web, but theoretically you should be able to have a good match with a broomstick. And I think I took Quinn's words to heart, and I wrestle invisible people all the time. Like I'll be in my apartment and bored and I'll chain with an invisible person. I'll like, you know, be at a trampoline park. I mean, I haven't been to a trampoline park in years, but like when I was 18, I went to a trampoline park and like no one there knows how to wrestle. So like I'm there doing random moves to nobody. Like I'm practicing a 450 splash. I'm, you know, practicing the, you know, rotation that I need to get a flip bump the right way off of one leg, and, you know, just all sorts of random things. So I feel really confident about my fundamentals in a way that I think I would be able to have a fun match with a Rock, throw in some cool Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson over in there. I think it would fun, but for me, like, there's nothing that's off the table. I would wrestle Rock. I would wrestle any person, anything, and try and make a story out of it. And, you know, this is sort of on the same topic and sort of just goes with everything overarching, you know, in this podcast, with like the way that Motivation Mike operates in wrestling is like, you know, there are so many people who get upset about their spot on a card or the outcome of a match or what storyline they're in. And, you know, I've tried to do every single thing that I'm given to the best of my ability, but not only that, do it with a smile on my face, and like not a fake smile. Like I'm genuinely happy to do it and going to try and make the most of it. And like you have a choice when you're given something, and your outlook and your attitude and your willingness to believe that you can make this better goes a really long way. It's a night and day difference. And I think, you know, Motivation Mike, from the match where I dropped the tag titles in 2018 and went off to college, to basically 2023, I didn't win a single match. Not one. I was on a Kurt Hawkins losing streak. I was on a 5-year losing streak. And I was like, who cares? This is like an ensemble on a play. Like sometimes in plays, someone's going to be cast as the main character. That's the heavyweight champion. And sometimes characters in plays are just extras. Sometimes characters die. Sometimes you're a supporting actor. You know, so everybody has to play their role for this ensemble to work. And I believe that having such a positive attitude really took me a long way, because, you know, now it's time for someone to step up. And who are they going to call? Probably the guy who has been making the most out of everything with a smile on his face for as long as they can remember. And so, you know, that's, I think, how Motivation Mike operates. So, you know, if they told me to wrestle a Rock, I would do it. And, you know, that's just what I've always done my whole wrestling career, you know. And I think, like I said, I'm confident enough in my ability to like tell a story, and you know, comedic wrestling is a skill that I'm learning so much of in no Priv now, that, you know, I think it could be fun. Anything could be fun.
Well, just for context, there is a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a Rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
I'm trying to remember what it is. There's like, I think it was some old British wrestler had like the longest wrestling match in the world. And like, I want to say it was like over 24 hours or something. Like something not attained, like something ridiculous that he did for charity or something. I'll have to look into it, but yeah. Yeah,
well, Psycho Mike definitely shattered that.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, a 15-minute match. I mean, I'm assuming maybe he just laid underneath this Rock, and that was like it had him in a submission hold.
Unfortunately not. They like went at it for like a really long time, and then obviously Mike has to wrestle other matches, so other commitments. So he actually had matches in between wrestling The Rock in that match as well. So yeah, a lot went into that for sure.
Wow.
A lot of moving
So
parts.
there is a Mike who's done it.
Yes.
Amazing.
Maybe we could see motivational psycho Mike. The Mikes.
Yeah, we could. I'm down. Like I said, tag team guy. I think anything could work.
Sebastian, if you're listening, book the damn match. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
It's interesting. Coming out of college, one of the places that I was applying a lot to was WWE. Mostly for their entry-level positions, like, they had this position called road production assistant, I think it was, which is really the job that I really wanted coming out of college. And I got to final round interviews with them and didn't get the job. And, the HR person and some of my connections within the company were like, don't be discouraged. They just want to see more experience. And since then, I've continued applying, but still haven't gotten that coveted job. And I think, like I said earlier, this idea that in-ring performance is the only way to get to WWE is when I realized that, okay, I have this experience at USA Network. I have this experience at OVW. I have these years of experience writing for, all these different publications, and years now in the ring doing this, years, years at my real shoot job, doing marketing. And I'm kind of just hoping in 5 years that, I'm going to keep applying to these WWE positions, and one day I'll get one. Whether it's, being a production assistant, like I said, I was a producer for a year, and I was a reporter for a year. So, I have on-camera experience, I have behind-the-camera experience, I have writing experience, editing experience, producing experience, shooting experience, and this whole passion and knowledge about wrestling. So, ideally, it would be amazing, a dream come true to be working in corporate at WWE, in AEW, full time, doing something with wrestling in the business. Would just be, I feel like I would never work another. When I was working for USA Network, it was weird because I didn't really feel like I was working. I would literally pitch these stories, and I would write them, and then I would watch Monday Night Raw and talk about what happened online. It was a dream. It was awesome. And so, hopefully, having experienced that at 22 years old and now being 26 and being I don't have the tolerance for a job that I'm not passionate about anymore, because I know what it feels like to have a job that you're really passionate about. And so, ever since then, I've just been trying to gain that experience in and out of the ring, whether it's corporate experience or experience in the wrestling business. Just kind of trying to make my resume as attractive as possible to hopefully work for WWE one day and, start making it a contribution to this product that has meant so much to so many people, to me, to everybody who likes wrestling,
And what is a match people should go out of their way to best show off you as a pro wrestler?
Well, there's a couple of different matches that I think people should check out. There's one match that actually happened a couple of years ago that I have never gotten around to uploading on YouTube, that I'm going to upload soon. But it was against Jesus Desafio in Wrestle League. I believe he was the current champion at the time. That was a great match. Really like technical, a lot of sequences that I'm proud of, kind of remembering, and that's not really my thing, like memorizing a whole list of sequences, and I don't really think that's Jesus's thing either, but we created a really intricate match that I'm proud of there. The whole feud with Kid Lat, I think, was put together really nicely. The psychology of those matches, I think especially our second match in the series was really great. It was like a classic David versus Goliath story, and had a little Eddie Guerrero finish in there, a little bit of like lie, cheat, steal, disqualification type of spiciness in there. And the cool thing was, we were talking about a finish and we came up with that. And the New Day on NXT did that same finish that same night. And it, was the first time that they had done it in WWE in a while too. So it was just a crazy coincidence. And then a lot of hidden gem matches at GLWA. There's a lot of Vendetta matches that I did that I think are really good, that people don't really watch because it's a pre-show match, and they let the fans in now because the demand for GLWA is so great at this point. But 2 or 3 years ago when I was doing Vendetta there, it was like empty arena matches basically. But I had great matches with their champion. I'm totally blanking on his last name, but Josh, blanking out on his last name. Great matches with Tyler Matthews. Like I said, a good match with Russ Jones. That was on the main show. I had a nice match with J.R. Lindsay on that show. J.R. Lindsay and I tagged a few times on Vendetta. So if you just search out like GLWA Vendetta from a few years ago and just pick through it, you may find a hidden motivation mic gem.
Okay. And you're going to be uploading the other match. And the matches with Kid Lat is already on YouTube, correct?
Yes, yeah, those are all on YouTube. I think the one that I was talking about with the Eddie Guerrero finish, that might have been the pre-show of a Dragon Gate show. I think that was our first match, was the pre-show of the Dragon Gate show, and then we did 2 more after that. And then since then I've wrestled him a handful of times. I think him and Joey Dalton are probably my 2 most common opponents. I had a good match with Joey Dalton at a Renaissance fair. That match is on YouTube as well, on my YouTube channel. And my debut match, I think, was crazy. Like I said, it was the unsanctioned street fight as my debut match. It was 35 minutes. Welcome to the business, and yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. There were tables and sledgehammers and chains and chairs, and we went all out.
All right. Well, I will grab those matches from YouTube, and when you upload the other one, I can always update the video with that match as well. For anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview. And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is our speed round or bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
I'm ready for the round of doom.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Oh, God. It depends on the day. Sometimes I'll say The Undertaker. And sometimes I say John Cena as of recent, which I was a little hesitant to do. But, something that Triple H had said really stuck in my mind, that it's when you factor in what it takes to be the best ever in this business. It's not in-ring. It's not character. it's so much more. It's your ability to travel, your ability to reinvent yourself over a 20-year career, your ability to be a draw, your ability to handle the media, and like there's so much that goes into it. Your physique, your mic skills, there's so much that goes into it. And for those reasons, I just think nobody did the full package better than John Cena or The Undertaker.
Okay, so are we going with John Cena or Undertaker?
All right, gun to my head, I guess I'll go John Cena.
Okay. Worst wrestler.
Worst wrestler. Oh, God. Oh, God. There have been some bad ones over the years. Who was really bad?
Would you like the default answer?
What's the default answer?
You have chosen Eva Marie.
I was gonna say, I mean, Eva Marie's definitely up there. Cameron is definitely up there. I mean, I was not a fan of Brodus Clay, but I mean, I heard his work in other promotions was better than it was in WWE, but I didn't watch him in those promotions. I don't know, but Brodus Clay can catch a stray anytime.
Okay. Eva Marie with a side of Brodus Clay.
Yes, yeah.
Your main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Dream opponent, I would say probably Daniel Bryan.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Gotta be probably the original Shield theme song.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Sorta dead, but that's okay.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast. Squash, vegetable or fruit?
I would say it has seeds, so it's a fruit.
That is correct. It indeed has seeds. Tomato logic.
Yes.
New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
I think it's okay if you're standing up and you got a little bit of that like underside, But I think when it starts getting more like thongy, then you gotta tone it down, I kind of like, Finn Balor or Daniel Bryan style, like very classic, very kind of like, as funny as it sounds, like Captain Underpants type of style. I'm trying to think of a guy who really had some skinny tights back in the day. I mean, I feel like Dolph Ziggler might have had some tiny tights, but like that was also kind of his thing. And then he went from the trunks to the tights.
Right.
But yeah, no. So I would say just use some common sense. More if it's more of a Speedo, then that's great. If it's more of a thong, then unless that's your character, like there are people who that's their character, like they are more risque or that's just part of them.
Right. Great. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
I can't say that I have, but I think if I walked up to anybody in the supermarket and just said like, "Hey, watch this," and showed them like 5 seconds of Darby Allin like destroying his body, like I think you would have to have a conversation at that point.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, if you're going to do that, definitely record yourself doing it.
Yeah, that could go viral, like showing strangers Darby Allin.
I was unfortunately not successful asking strangers if they knew who Darby Allin was, but that was a very long time ago.
Yeah, he's a nut. I mean, and the craziest thing about him is that, like, if I'm not mistaken, most of his injuries are like not even wrestling related. Like, he got injured skateboarding and like climbing Mount Everest and like doing insane side quest stuff, and like he'll go off of a ladder through a pane of glass onto the concrete floor below, and I guess he's fine after that. So I don't know. But like, that's like how I just, like, as a kid, like, even so many people are drawn to wrestling. Like, whenever I wanted to recruit a friend and be like, hey, get into wrestling, when I was little, I would just show them like TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17, because it's a human car accident. And as a little kid, how are you not like, oh my God, I want to see more of this? Like, so.
Yeah. Right. Well, that is the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much, Mike, for coming on and doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Great conversation. Great podcast. Love the background research that you have, and the knowledge that you have of everyone's career. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And once again, where can we find Motivation Mike on social media?
So you can, again, find me on social media at motivation_Mike_WL for Wrestle League. Probably should make that a little bit easier. And then my shoot name on YouTube, just Ethan Absler. And then I have a My Matches playlist that you can find. But pretty soon, I think it's time to, go all in on the merchandise, Pro Wrestling Tees store, other social medias like Facebook, and, an official actual wrestling YouTube, and all that good stuff. So for now, yeah, just popping up on shows all over the place, IPW, Wrestle League, and, hopefully various other places here soon. And, of course, on Instagram mostly.
Perfect. And you don't have to go typing it into your Google machine. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Give him a damn follow. And when he gets merchandise, buy a damn shirt. Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, both on YouTube and Castbox. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Play One Coffee. Join us next Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews, and follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on Extra and Instagram, for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment, okay?
All right.
For our very special guest, Motivation Mike, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey, folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show. Support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.